Hi, I'm Katie Becker. I'm a beauty editor and brand consultant. And for the Fragrance Foundation's 2022 International Fragrance Day, I'm going to be speaking with Kimberly Waters. She's the owner and founder of MUSE Boutique, which is the premier destination for niche and luxury fragrances in Harlem. She founded it in 2017. You can find MUSE, which stands for Modern Urban Sensory Experiences, on Edgecombe Avenue in a beautiful brownstone space that serves as her retail parlor. It really looks and feels like a home, which is certainly a departure from spaces most shoppers usually find themselves in. I'm sure many of you listening know that from your own personal experience that there's no better way to communicate the depth and intrigue of your own favorite fragrance than in those personal one-on-one moments when someone asks you about your collection. This is the genius that Kimberly has tapped into. She talks about how important this setting is to her business, this aspect of intimacy and conversation, and especially because she has so much knowledge to share. Her selection is highly, highly curated, and she travels the world looking for compelling, undiscovered scents. She brings them back to Harlem so she can share their complete and complex stories in her parlor shop. Kimberly also uses the MUSE Boutique and Instagram as a space to elevate Black and African fragrance experts and creatives, such as the brands Maya and Jai and Aspen Apothecary. And her knack for connection also gives her this incredible sense of the luxury fragrance customer today, which we're going to talk about in our conversation. She also tells us exactly how to make an appointment at MUSE, so stay tuned for that at the end. Kimberly, I'm so excited to be speaking with you today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So the first question I wanted to talk about is about the store in general. I've only recently gotten to learn about MUSE. I love the concept. I haven't gotten a chance to go. I'm dying to get there. I understand it's by appointment only, but I've heard it's very inviting and it's a very special place to be in. And I was wondering if you could tell me, what is the secret to your boutique?
Yes, well, great question. Thank you for asking. So the secret to Muse, first of all, I have to say the location of where we're at. We're in the heart of Central Harlem. My neighborhood was just designated a historical landmark, so that adds a nice little feel to it. So there's no other fragrance destination in Harlem, so that makes us unique already. Second is the ambiance. We're actually located on the parlor floor of a townhouse. So not you're like your traditional brick and mortar or your place, a typical place that you would go shopping. You're actually walking into a beautiful residential home that we use our parlor floor for Muse. So you're going to have the artwork, you're going to have the warmth, you're going to have a nice feel and vibe as you look for fragrances. So that's the secret to Muse.
And how did you come up with that? I mean, how was that your vision? Because that's such a different type of shopping environment than people are used to.
Absolutely. I wanted to create a place and a space for folks in my community to shop and explore fragrance. Now, I know that I wasn't ready for traditional brick and mortar, but luckily I have friends in my life who had amazing homes. And one of those homes were here in Harlem, which was a brownstone originally. And she was like, well, why don't you use my floor, the parlor floor to jumpstart Muse? And I was just kind of like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So we just used it. My friend offered her space, and that's kind of how we got into this kind of brownstone shopping or townhouse shopping-esque feel. But yeah, that's kind of how it started.
I'd love to hear about the fragrance assortment that you offer and if there's a philosophy behind what you bring in. I know you have a very particularly curated range of fragrances.
Absolutely. And I don't have a lot of space. So everything that I do, I have to kind of put some thought and intention behind it. But the Muse collection probably is at anywhere between 13 to 15 brands right now. We do have global brands like Nasamoto. We do have some indie brands like Maya and Jai or Brooklyn-based Iris parfums. We do have some emerging brands like Aspen Apothecary out of Ohio. So we do have a nice range of brands. I do at times work with a distributor, but I also love to find my own gems, I like to say, through various ways too. So it's a nice kind of mixture of both global, indie, emerging brands, women-owned brands, Black-owned brands, just brands. So yeah.
Can you tell me about what the fragrance discovery process is like for you? I relate to it in some degree as a beauty editor, having learned, I get to learn about fragrances all the time, which is
Mhm.
probably my favorite part of the job. I get to really explore my curiosity.
Yes.
What's your fragrance discovery process like? Because I know you're traveling all over the world.
hmm Yes, a big thing is curiosity. I think that really is what drives me and motivates me and actually put me into this space, this fragrance space, is my drive for curiosity. And for me, like I said, a couple moments, I do use a distributor. So I do kind of go through her to kind of see what's new. I do utilize social media because I do like to kind of use that to kind of search for new brands, that some that I'm aware of and something I may not be aware of. I do travel as well. You mentioned I do go to some of the international fragrance trade shows, like in Milan or Florence or something like that. But there's also local fragrance trade shows or trade shows that have fragrance components to it here in New York that comes twice a year. So I have my ways, some traditional and some more just, guided by me. So yeah, those are a couple of ways that I look for and search for fragrance. And that's, I think it has to say, like, that's like the funnest part,
Mhm.
finding new brands, discovering them, sometimes blind buying brands just based on, what I see. Something that's good, that's fun. But that's like the fun part of it is the shopping for new additions to Muse.
I'd have to imagine that part of the process is thinking, okay, this is very lovable, or this, like this scent, I can see a lot of people being interested in based on
Yeah.
my experiences with customers, or thinking to yourself, this is really different. I don't have anything like this.
Yeah.
What are some of the filters that you incorporate
Yeah.
that someone who might be new to the fragrance world wouldn't even realize are really important?
Definitely. So one time, whenever I'm shopping for fragrances for Muse, I have to realize that I'm not solely shopping for me. I'm shopping for a greater community, and a community that may not be as experienced as I am, or may not be as knowledgeable, may not have the language. So I look for brands that, are first aesthetically appealing to me. Again, I'm in a unique setting, so they have to sit within the Muse space kind of comfortably, if that makes sense. I can't have a brand that has like me 30 bottles because again, space is very limited. So I have to think about, the versatility of the collection, the price point. Again, it's about access and creating access to niche, luxury, artsy fragrances. So price point is super important, especially as you're bringing people into this world. You can't always go for the big, $300 bottles, but I have to have something that I feel that people can connect to, that I myself connect to, and that I can share that connection to others. So versatility, connection, the brand philosophy, what is their story, and how can I convey that story to my clients? The price point, and of course, the quality and the presentation of the collection.
Yeah. I love that you brought up accessibility for
Yeah.
International Fragrance Day. The Fragrance Foundation really focuses on how to make both the knowledge of the perfume world as well as the products more accessible, exactly what
Mhm.
we're talking about. And by the way, for anybody watching, if you go to hashtag fragrance forward TFF, you'll see social posts today with more information and access. And I'm curious for you, Kimberly, what is that experience like when someone comes into your store and you start a conversation with them? Because you have this really unique opportunity to be sitting down, I'm assuming with like a cup of tea or something like that versus
Champagne,
yeah.
spirits.
Yeah. Yeah. And And we know fragrance is so emotional. So
Yeah.
tell me what that connection is like when you're right next to somebody.
Absolutely. So one of the things when people come in, I don't know if they know what to expect.
Mhm.
They walk in and their first response is like, "Ah, this is beautiful." So I think aesthetically, it kind of welcomes them. And then, of course, we're still living in the COVID world. So I have them, of course, wash their hands and kind of get ready, take off their coat,
Mhm.
and kind of get ready for the experience. And it's definitely a very welcoming, experience. You feel at home, which I think is very different from traditional fragrance shopping. There's music lightly playing in the background. There's artwork around the walls. So again, your senses are automatically drawn to that. So we kind of open you up with your visual kind of connection to the space. And then I may offer you something to drink, or I may have like a little light bite, for you to have. And that's when the kind of the conversation is going. The good thing is like you're working with me. So I'm very kind of easygoing. This is a very interactive and engaging, experience. Um, I don't know if you guys know, but the parlor floor of, townhouses were places where people commune, in Harlem back in the day. So I definitely want to have that same feel. This is community. This is a place for a conversation, a place to learn and educate. And when you're with me, I'm asking you a few questions just to kind of tap into what you're looking for. And then we start the experience. We're smelling, we're engaging, we're narrowing down, because I necessarily don't put out every collection that I have. I try to figure out, what is it that they're looking for, and then align them to a collection that I have. And that's where we start, you know. Yeah.
Do you ever find that somebody comes in and they think they want something and then
Oh,
they walk out the door with something totally different?
That's the fun part, because I always like to tell my clients and my guests to keep an open nose,
Mm.
because what you tend to, navigate towards, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge that perception. I'm going to challenge that connection. I'm going to expose you to some fragrances that may be aligned to what you're used to, but maybe a different interpretation. So I always tell my clients just to keep an open nose. And that's kind of how it makes the experience a little bit more engaging, and you just don't know what to expect.
Have you had a particularly hot seller lately, one fragrance that people are really gravitating toward?
Yes. So lately it's been Los Angeles by a brand called Galavant, and they're based in London. And that particular fragrance is, it's kind of on the fruity side, but there's something that kind of comes through that note. There's a note that kind of comes through that's very edgy. And I think that people who like fruity fragrances, but not solely fruity, with like a little bit of edge, that tends to surprise both men and women that come into Muse. So I kind of like showing that particular scent. Towards the middle section of the experience, just to kind of get their reaction. That's pretty popular these days.
And that sounds really fun to sort of throw in like a wild card here and there.
Yeah.
Also, you really like
Yes.
them.
Yeah.
Do you find that the fragrance shopping experience has changed in the last 2 years? When somebody's coming in looking for a fragrance, does it seem to be sort of a similar conversation, or do you think that the experiences that the world has had globally the last 2 years have changed how people approach this investment?
Great question. So there's a few ways I will answer that. I think that from a shopping experience, I think that folks want a more localized personal experience than they've had in the past. I think for a while, we're still going to be in a space where folks may have some reservations. But I think for folks like me and businesses like me, that's local, that's interactive, that's personable, folks want that. They desire that. So that's one. When I think about how has the shopping experience shifted during COVID. Two, for those folks who have had COVID and they have had, loss of their sense of smell. You know, I've had a couple of clients come in and just say, show me the strongest thing you got, because I want to make sure that my nose is coming back around, and that I can start smelling again. So that has been something that has come up, you know, from a client perspective. And I think that folks, you know, there was a risk of losing your sense of smell if you caught COVID. And I think now we have an appreciation, a more appreciation for our sense of smell that I think that, you know, we didn't have. We just kind of took it for granted. So I think scent is going to be around to stay. And I think that post-COVID, folks are going to still want to connect to that ability to smell, because they realize that at any point, you know, should something else come around, that could be a loss, a big loss to us.
That's a really good point. And the point that you raised about that one-on-one connection has
Mhm.
always been the strong suit,
Mhm.
and just an amazing aspect of your concept from the beginning. I
Mhm.
found that when I'm shopping, or even when I'm at a doctor's appointment,
Yeah.
I end up getting into these more specific conversations. I want to
Yeah.
know what's been going on in everybody's lives, because so much has changed, and at the same time we're craving that connection.
Absolutely. And I'll just, you know, follow up that with that thought is, when you come to Muse, this is definitely about a discovery, whether you're discovering, you know, a new connection in myself, whether you're discovering a new fragrance, or whether you're discovering something new about yourself. You know, this is kind of like a multi-dimensional experience that, you know, I really, really want to have people connect to on a higher level. So yes, we're asking deeper questions now. We are thriving more for kind of like that local engagement, and truly something that folks have not experienced in the past, all under a safe kind of authentic environment.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm curious where you see Muse going next, especially thinking about how
Uh,
the world has shifted a bit, and maybe where you predict it heading. You have this really amazing connection with your customer, and I have a sense you have an intuition for what they need.
yes. What do I? That's a good question. My vision for
But
Muse
you're okay with
is,
sharing. You don't have to tell
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all good. So my vision for Muse is, you know, to continue building Muse as the premier destination for fragrance discovery in the Uptown Harlem area. So that's key for me. I want to be able to expand, you know, the options, the fragrance options here, you know, and create opportunities for emerging brands to come on to Muse as a partner. So that's super important to me. One of the things that I noticed throughout COVID is that there's a desire for creation and development. And there's a lot of questions that have come up around fragrance. So I would love to be able to use Muse as a vehicle to answer those questions and to be a resource for others who may want to enter this space but just have no clue how. So big kind of like a educational, you know, have, you know, build an educational component, a resource component for folks who are interested in this industry but just don't know where to start. And I think that that's it. Just continuing being a destination here in Harlem, but also creating opportunities for others to learn about this wonderful space that I've been a part of for a long time, and to bring people along for the journey as well.
When you're speaking about this, I get that feeling of like I can totally see this all coming together. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I what you're talking about, I also have this craving for and belief that I feel the same, that people have this desire to be learning more and getting
Yeah,
that deeper involvement with fragrance. That's really
absolutely. Absolutely.
so. Kimberly, please tell me, how do we make an appointment at Muse?
Yes, great question, and super, super easy. Please visit the website www.museexperiences.com. There is a booking option at the top of the screen. And then when you hit that, there's a few options that you do have. You have an option just to come in. If you happen to be in a neighborhood, you want to just explore leisurely, you can do that. or you could book a one-on-one experience with me, which is a little bit more guided, a little bit more hands-on. And if you have a friend or two that you want to make this an afternoon event or an experience, you can book a group experience with MUSE as well. So you have a few options. Hopefully that aligns to whatever it is that you're looking for. There's no obligation. When you come here to MUSE, it's all about connection and discovery. So in the event that you don't find something that you're looking for, perfectly fine, never any pressure. But in the event that you do find a couple of things that you like, if you get the one-on-one experience or the group experience, you will walk away with a few samples that you could take home at your choice to discover a little bit longer. So again, never any pressure. We just want you to come hang out, have a good time, learn a few things, and open your mind to a different way of experiencing fragrance.
And at this point, it sounds like if you're making an appointment there, you pretty much have the space to yourself, at least at this point.
Yes, at this point, a great question. So yes, when you are making an experience, you and myself or you and the guest are the sole folks inside that space for now. At some point in the near future, hopefully the spring, as we climb out of this COVID world that we're living in, I will be having more open houses where you can just gradually come in during a certain length of time, and you can also explore the fragrances that way too. So that's to come. That's to come.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. This was
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so excited about your next chapters.
Thank you. I look forward to a visit from you at some point.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.